Hello, YouTube, and welcome to the Real Siberius live stream. This live stream is for reaching 200 subscribers, and I wanted to do a Q&A to answer some of your guys' questions. So let's get into it. Actually, before I do that, there's something that I wanted to say. First of all, I never expected to get to 200 subscribers. I really didn't. Hopefully you guys can still hear me. I don't even know if anyone's here. Anyway, not that I have screwed that up. I didn't think that I would get 200 subscribers, if I'm completely honest. Not because of self-doubt or self-deprecation, but honestly because I just wasn't sure that people would have any interest in anything that I had to say. It's difficult because sometimes you never know. All right, I'm glad you can hear me. I was a little bit worried that I had screwed that up. But one thing that I wanted to address is for my live streams, I would really like to have the live streams be more focused on audience interactions. Oftentimes, when I join a live, the host has an agenda or specific things that they want to talk about, which is great, but it does limit the interaction between the host and the watchers. I would personally prefer to have almost all interaction with the audience. This certainly doesn't mean I expect you guys to do all the work. I'll certainly try to do all of the heavy lifting as far as keeping everyone engaged and controlling the conversation. There may be specific lives that I do that have a theme or a purpose, but I would really like to interact with you guys. You guys get to hear me run my mouth all the time in my videos. I would like to hear what's on your guys' minds or what you guys think. But anyway, let's get to these questions. The first question is, how many points do you think Prime LeBum would score against Prime Dennis Rodman if they were matched up in a game? We're talking about Rodman guarding him for the full 48 minutes. That's an interesting question. I feel like to answer it accurately, I need a little bit more context, so I'm just going to add some of my own. Are they playing with modern rules or actual basketball rules? If they were playing in modern rules, Rodman would probably foul out in the first quarter. If they were playing in real basketball rules, I think it'd be the exact opposite. I think LeBron would foul out in the first quarter. However, let's just say neither of them are going to foul out. They're just going to play all 48 minutes against each other. I'm going to be nice and say LeBron would get 8 to 10 points. And the reason why I think that is because Rodman does play actionable defense. I mean, they call him the worm for a reason. It's typically because he was in your ass and he was going to shut you down. And it didn't matter how big you were. It didn't matter if you had more weight on him. He was an incredibly physical defender, and he was going to get in your head and in your game. Hello, Lynetta. Hello, Dreamesis. I hope I'm not fucking that up. I'm actually really terrible at reading people's usernames. That's actually a really good question. Lakers sold for 10 billion. How much do you think they would have sold without Luka? It absolutely would have dropped the price without question. He is carrying that franchise. And I'm saying that as somebody who doesn't even like Luka. I don't like his game. I don't like the fact that he doesn't play defense. I don't like the fact that, he's constantly trying to bait for fouls that he flops. However, he does deliver offensively. I think that's probably fair. I think it would probably knock $1 billion off of the price, which is insane to say, but I genuinely believe that that's true. 10 million for the Lakers is also crazy, given that they haven't been a dominating force in almost 20 years. So it's crazy to me that they still sold for 10 million. They are part of that sale price is their legacy and not the current reality. To get back to the how many points would LeBum score against Rodman, I do think about 8 to 10 points. The reason why I say that is because Rodman is going to foul and LeBron will go to the line. Thankfully, he's a terrible free throw shooter. So in a 48-minute game, I'm going to give him 8 to 10 points. The second question, are there any athletes you think deserve to be unanimous Hall of Fame inductees? If so, who? That's a difficult question. I genuinely believe that Shohei Ohtani should have been a unanimous decision. The fact that one person didn't vote him in, first of all, I find crazy. I also wish that the voters were not anonymous or private, because I think if you're going to vote against somebody, you need to stand behind that vote and do so publicly. If I'm being completely honest, I think Jordan, if he wasn't, again, I did some research into unanimous or close to unanimous Hall of Fame inductees, and there's no record of anybody voting against Jordan, but he is not claimed with being a unanimous decision. There's only that one player, and I'll be honest, I forgot his name because he's a baseball player, and I've never been a particularly big baseball fan. So I think there are others that should have been incredibly close, but whether they deserved unanimous, I think I kind of have to leave it at Shohei Ohtani and Michael Jordan. The third question, where did your name, The Real Siberius, and your logo come from? The Real Siberius is interesting because I have gone by the online handle Siberius for well over a decade. But when I was thinking about starting my YouTube channel, when I tried to use Siberius, it was already taken. I've never run into that issue before on Steam, on Battle.net, on Epic Games, on any platform. I've never ran into that issue of not being able to use my username. So when I saw that Siberius was taken, I'm known for being Siberius just through various platforms. So I wanted that in my name, but I didn't want to be Siberius and a number. So I just went The Real Siberius, and it kind of stuck. The logo that I use on my videos, which is the red dragon, I was born in the year of the dragon, 1976. Dragons have always been a heavy influence in my life. I have a dragon tattoo on my person. Uh, I've just always been fascinated by dragons. So I knew that that was going to be a part of my logo. And now I have, I guess you could say, a reputation under the real Siberius. So I just don't feel like I could change the name. And not even necessarily that I want to. Uh, but that's where that came from. The next question, how did you get your brain injuries? I've actually addressed this in a video before. If you want to see it, it's the second video I ever made. It's episode 2. It's called Overcoming Adversity. I even show a picture of me with my skull missing. It's it's not particularly graphic, but it is a little bit disturbing because there's a gigantic dent in my head. Uh, but I'll go over it a little bit. In 2023, on the first day of my vacation in 4 years, I was going downstairs to my man cave and slipped and fell down the stairs. I hit the left side of my head and the right side of my head. Um, I was taken to a hospital that couldn't assist me in any way. They were not a trauma center. So I sat there for 3.5 hours just bleeding into my brain. And it caused a third traumatic brain injury in the center of my brain, which is where all of your emotions are controlled. So that's fun. I was then taken to Harborview Medical Center where they performed emergency surgery. I had a craniectomy where they removed a section of my skull about 7 inches in length and 4 inches in width on my right side. So that's what happened. Nobody exactly knows why it happened. They don't know if I slipped, if I passed out, if I stumbled, because nobody saw it. Thankfully, my wife of the time was upstairs and heard me fall. So she was able to call 911 and get me help as soon as possible. But that's kind of how that happened. The next question is, why did you start doing YouTube? That's an interesting question. I have kind of addressed this before, but watching content creators like Uncommon Sense, Angry Old Hoops, Sports and Fitness Rants, Self-Researched NBA Facts, a lot of the guys that I shout out at the ends of my videos, I wanted to be a part of that group. That's just the honest answer. Is I wanted to be associated with those individuals, and I thought that I had something unique and interesting to offer in that regard. It was really Uncommon Sense that inspired me to do it. I have been commenting on his videos for years now, and he always had positive things to say. So it kind of reaffirmed that maybe I had a perspective or point of view or insights that other people would be interested in hearing. I had honestly thought about starting a YouTube channel for years. The reality is I didn't have the balls. It takes a lot of nerve to record yourself and not let anyone listen to it. And then it takes a hell of a lot more nerve to record yourself and post it on the internet where anybody can say whatever the hell they want to about it. It wasn't until my accident and realizing it's just such a trivial thing. Fear is such a trivial thing, and pushing past it to accomplish the things that you want to accomplish is just something that you have to do. So I think I even asked Uncommon Sense in one of his videos. I was like, "Do you think I should start a YouTube channel?" And he said yes. And that may have just been him being kind, but I decided, fuck it, I'm going to try it. When I lost my job, I needed something to offer me some kind of structure, something that I would be accountable to. And I knew if I started a YouTube channel, I'm not going to walk away from it. I'm going to want to do it to the best of my ability. And once I started it, I was locked in. There was no way that I was going to disappoint the few subscribers that I had. And I just can't quit. I can't give up. It's just not in my nature. So I knew I just had to begin, and then it would be off to the races. The next question is, you have mentioned watching the NFL for years. Who is your team and favorite player? I used to watch the NFL. I actually don't watch it anymore. I find it just as embarrassing, if not more embarrassing, than the NBA. However, I was a Minnesota Vikings fan for over 30 years. That could be why I stopped, because they were a team that you were guaranteed to be disappointed. They broke my heart time after time after time after time again. And I eventually just had to sever that unhealthy relationship. However, my favorite player was a Minnesota Viking. His name was John Randall. I'm not sure if all of you will know who he is, but he was just an absolute lunatic on defense. And that's just me. I absolutely love defense in all sports. It's part of the reason why I don't like sports anymore, because they've kind of removed all defense. And I kind of like unhinged people. I like people that are going to be unapologetically themselves. They don't care if you like them. They don't care if you're their friend. They're just going to be who they are, and like it or not. And I think I've always been attracted to that, because that's how I've always been. The people that I love dearly. But the reality is, if you don't like me, I don't give a fuck. It's not going to keep me up at night. In fact, I'm probably not going to think about it ever. I just am who I am. And I know a lot of people that like me because of who I am. I would love to be a fan of the NFL again. But I think much like the NBA, they're just going to continue to remove the physicality from the game. They're going to continue to outlaw defense in light of more offense. And I just don't respect offense as much. I think almost anyone can play offense, and very few people can play elite defense. And defense, to me, is why I watch the game. It's what inspires me. It's what drives me. Whenever I played sports, I was always a defender. That was always where I wanted to shine. It's in large part why Rodman is my favorite player. It's why John Randall was my favorite player. I just love defense. Next question is, what are your hobbies outside of basketball and YouTube? I actually don't know if I can even consider basketball a hobby. I don't play basketball anymore. Unfortunately, I am too crippled and I don't really watch basketball anymore. I suppose I guess it could still fall into that category given that that's mainly what my excuse me. Given that's mainly what my YouTube channel is based off of. However, outside of basketball and YouTube, I'm a huge music fan. I collect vinyl records and listen to a ridiculous amount of music. It's basically the soundtrack of my life. It's pretty much always on in the background. So that is a huge one for me. I also really enjoy playing video games. My brother and I play Overwatch and Apex Legends. We mix a few other games in there. But for probably 8 or 9 years, we have been pretty dedicated to Overwatch and Apex and a number of other first person shooters. I am also an avid reader, reading all types of books. However, I tend to read trashy science fiction and fantasy and nonfiction. Also a big movie guy. I also enjoy working out. And yeah, that's pretty much it as far as hobbies go. I mean, there are some other ones in there. Oh, I don't know how I could forget. I also do play the drums. I don't know how I didn't think that, given that I have a fucking drum set sitting right next to me. I'm not a particularly good drummer, but I enjoy the hell out of playing drums. I should probably play more, but I'm working on that. Okay, next question. I know you said Rodman is your favorite player, but who else do you like? And there are so many. Bird is absolutely one of my favorite players of all time. Jordan, obviously. Kobe makes me sad because I want to say I saw 2 years of his career from 96 to 98 when he was just first starting out, but I wasn't a huge Lakers fan, so I didn't really get to see a lot of his play. It wasn't until 2020 when I started watching the NBA again that I was kind of trying to make up for everything that I had missed. So I was looking at all of the superstars that had kind of come and gone in that time when I wasn't watching, and he was absolutely a standout. It breaks my heart that I never got to see him play live. It breaks my heart that I just never watched his career. His Mamba mentality has been a gigantic inspiration for me ever since I learned about it. I've read his book. I watched a number of his documentaries, and I'm just a huge fan. I made a video recently about there will never be another Michael Jordan, and I don't think Kobe was another Michael Jordan. That's actually one of the things that I really like and respect about Kobe. And sorry to go off on a tangent here, but he started out trying to be Jordan. I was going to say he had the shaved head. I was going to say he was basically trying to copy his game. And then I think at one point he just decided, I don't want to be Jordan. I want to be me. And he really leaned into that. And he became his own player and he developed his own game. And while he did play in a similar style to Jordan, he was also a very different player. And even though he's my number 2 all time, uh, I hold him in absolutely the highest regard. But yeah, like I said, Larry Bird, Kobe, Kareem, Olajuwon, David Robinson. I- There are so many players that I just had the utmost respect for. I think all of them are players of the 80s and 90s, a few from the 70s. But I was a big fan of a lot of players. Rodman just happened to be my favorite because I genuinely believe he's one of the most elite defenders to ever play the game. And rebounding was his strong suit, and he just leaned into it. And that was incredibly appealing to me. Next question. This may sound strange, but what are your expectations for YouTube? The reality is, I don't have any. I have absolutely zero expectation. If anything, my expectation is I will never be able to monetize. I will never be a huge channel with a lot of subs and clicks and views. And that's not to disparage myself in any way. Uh, that's self awareness. The reality is I don't follow the rules, so to speak. I want to do my channel my way, and I don't care about clicks or views. I try not to get sucked into what's trendy or what will build my channel. I try to do what's real for me, what I believe my subscribers would want to see, addressing issues or narratives or lies that I think need to be addressed. And I don't think it's a lane that is profitable. I mean, I've been doing this for almost 9 months now, and I have 213 subscribers, which I am incredibly grateful for. And a lot of you are engaged and comment frequently and like the videos and have incredibly complimentary things to say, which still blows me away. But I mean, am I ever going to reach 1,000 subscribers? I'm not even entirely sure about that. And 1,000 subscribers is the bare minimum to be able to monetize. And then even if I hit that, I just don't get the views and the watch hours. I think you need 3,000 watch hours or 4,000 watch hours, and I have about 400. So I don't have expectations, but that also doesn't disappoint me. It was never my intention when I started this channel to be a big channel. The reality is, when I started this channel, my goal was to be considered amongst my peers. I wanted to be acknowledged and respected by the content creators that I watch and respect. And in that regard, uh, I've already achieved my goal. Everything else is just a bonus now. I never thought that I would be doing live streams because, quite frankly, I was too chicken shit. It took me a long time to get up the nerve to start the channel, and it's taken 9 months of having this channel for me to want to do this, for me to have the courage to go live where I can't edit out the long pauses between my thoughts, where I can't edit out stumbling over my words or sounding like a jackass. It's hard to do. But actually, looking at the last question here, it does kind of segue into it. And the question is, why don't you ever appear on camera? There are a few different reasons for that. One, I don't care if somebody attacks me. That's fine. If somebody were to come in my comment section and say that my opinions are stupid or my takes are stupid or my channel's awful or I'm just a hater or whatever, that shit doesn't even register with me. I seldomly acknowledge it, and I don't allow my channel to be a soapbox for idiots in their commentary. So that wouldn't bother me. However, this is the internet. People can be incredibly cruel because they can cloak themselves under anonymity, and there's very little or no consequence. So if I were on camera and somebody were to make comments about the scars on my head, I'm going to come at them. And I'm not going to do it in a professional way. I'm not going to do it in a reserved way. I'm going to come unhinged. And part of that is because of my brain injuries, but part of it is also because I don't stand for that type of behavior. And we live in a world without consequences or repercussions where people stand idly by while people do outrageous and crazy things, and people just don't have the balls to say anything about it. That's not who I am. If you're the type of person that's a dickhead that's going to listen to your music on speakerphone in public, I'm going to say something to your face. And I'm not going to fight you for it, because the reality is, if I get punched in the head, I could die, and I'm not willing to risk that for an idiot. However, complacency is guilt, and I can't be complacent or silent while people are being dickheads. So I will likely never be on camera. It's not because I'm afraid I'm too ugly. I mean, my appearance is what it is. My scars are what they are. They don't particularly bother me. In fact, I could grow my hair out and they would all disappear, but I use them as a reminder of what I've been through, of what I could have lost, and what I've gained from going through my experience. So I don't know. Part of it is I wear them as a badge of honor, but I think if somebody were to come at me about them, I just don't want to deal with it, is basically what it comes down to. I just don't want to deal with it. Also, and these lives are a slight reflection of it, when I'm editing my videos after I've recorded it, I don't ever change anything, but what I do often have to do is edit out long segments of silence. And it's because my brain basically works on a 5-second delay now. So I can have the thought in my head, but it takes time before it comes out of my mouth. And I edit those out out of respect for the listener, because if I left it all in, sometimes there's 5-10 seconds where there would be no sound whatsoever. And I don't think that's being respectful to the listener. So I just edit that stuff out. Anyway, that is all of the questions that I received. I certainly apologize if you posted a question somewhere and I missed it. I received a few questions on the post that I left on my channel. I received a few questions on various videos on my channel, and I received a few emails with questions. It is entirely possible that I may have missed some. I also apologize that I did not think to write down the individual that asked the question just to acknowledge and shout them out. But I didn't do that, and unfortunately, it's too late now. But anyway, if any of you in the comment section, and I apologize, I was completely ignoring the chat while I was going through those questions, so I am looking over it now. Do you believe that Shaq, LeBron, Bill Russell, and Wilt played with the most superstars or all-star players in NBA history? I kind of do. I mean, the only people I necessarily hold it against in that regard is LeBron, and that's because he created those super teams. I was going to say, I don't think Kobe had anything to do with Shaq joining his team. And I don't have a problem if the front office makes decisions and you benefit from those decisions. Where I have an issue with super teams is when the players collude or try to make that happen. That's when I have the biggest issue. So Steph Curry essentially begging KD to come join the Warriors, I have a problem with that. I was going to say D Wade calling LeBron or LeBron calling D Wade, whichever way it went, and saying, hey, you know, Kobe just won his 5th ring and, you know, I only have one and you have none. Let's join forces. I have a problem with that. When the front office makes decisions and the player has no input in that decision and a superstar ends up coming to that team, I don't necessarily object to that. Sometimes shit happens. It's when players collude and take part in building those teams that I'm like, your job is to play fucking basketball. Let other people handle the roster and handle player management. That's not your job. Your job is to play basketball. What do you think of players now scamming to get their last big contract? I think Brandon Roy and Odin now can scam their way into a last big contract with all this load management. Man, this load management shit is crazy. I just don't even know what to think about it anymore. I mean, you know, LeBron missing out this game because of his fake elbow injury is just bullshit. I think the part of it that disgusts me the most, it's not even necessarily that he does it, because at this point, this behavior is just expected. It's that the media and his fanboys will not care. They're just like Trump supporters. And Trump said he could murder somebody in the street and his supporters are still going to be his supporters. It's the exact same thing with LeBron. They don't care that he's a piece of shit. They don't care that he's a scumbag. They don't care that he cheated the game. They don't care that he lies. They like him anyway. And if anything, it just goes to show they're disgusting people. His fans are disgusting people, and they're disgusting people. If I were to find out, and I mean, actually, I'll be completely honest. I have been a fan of Rodman since he joined the Bulls in 95. He said some stupid shit since then. On Vlad TV, when he was being interviewed, he said something about Bird couldn't play in this area, and I wanted to punch him in the mouth. I was like, first of all, what the fuck are you talking about? You must be high or something, because Bird would fucking dominate in this era. So I hold people accountable even when I like them. They don't hold LeBron accountable for anything, even when he's blatantly wrong. And yeah, load management is absolutely a part of the reason why I can't stand the modern era. I don't know if you guys saw it because I was on 93Z's live stream before I started here. I saw Jordan play live 3 times. He played all 3 times. He delivered all 3 times. The very first time that I finally decided to go see a modern era game, and I believe it was the Clippers versus the Sixers, 4 fucking starters didn't play. Now, I mean, I didn't particularly care about them. Neither of them are my team. But 4 starters not playing in one fucking game, and those tickets were expensive as hell. I think I did the math on it because I think the 3 times that I saw Jordan play, the games were about $120 to $150, and that's in the 90s. I want to say when I went to see the Clippers 76ers, the ticket was $360. So about 3 times the amount, and 4 fucking starters didn't show up. When I saw the Bulls Sonics, those 3 times, every single starter played. Now, the likelihood of all of those players playing all 82 games that season, incredibly unlikely. So I imagine that somebody somewhere went to go see the game and one of them didn't play. That is disappointing. But from my experience in the 3 times that I saw them, not one starter missed that game. And then the first time I go to see a modern era game, 4, that's just ridiculous. That's not respecting yourself. That's not respecting the fans. That's not respecting the game. I just can't tolerate that. I don't watch the modern era for a myriad of reasons, but load management is absolutely one of them. I think the biggest reason why I don't watch the modern era is because defense doesn't exist. And it was actually Jim from Self-Researched NBA Facts that really pinpointed why that is. And I personally thought when I started watching the NBA again that it was because of the removal of hand checking. And I do think that the removal of hand checking played a significant role in the decline in defense. But he was pointing out how the 3-second rule has ruined defense. And I guess I had just never really thought about it before. I didn't really have a clear understanding of what the 3-second rule was when I first started watching the game again, because it didn't exist when I had previously watched the NBA. It's an absolutely fucking ridiculous rule. It's almost as embarrassing as the heave rule that they added in either last year or this year, where when you chuck up a last second shot in the quarter or whatever, it doesn't count against your shooting percentage. They're both huge fucking embarrassments. Who's your actual favorite NBA player of all time? It's Rodman. People can love him or hate him. A lot of people do hate him, and I think the hate is justified because he's a fucking weird guy. He's off-putting to a lot of people, certainly when he was on the Pistons, and even a fair amount of the time he was on the Bulls. He's a dirty motherfucker, but he's still my favorite player of all time. If anyone has any interest, you should absolutely read his book, Bad as I Want to Be, because it kind of goes into all of that. No, that's very true. Unfortunately, each player gets 80% of their salary from ESPN, paying $7 billion per year. They are no longer dependent on the paying customer in the arena. That's very true. And it's absolutely disgusting. Players don't really have any incentive to play 82 games. If they have a guaranteed contract and they have all of these endorsements, which I still just can't even fathom why, what the fuck is their incentive to play? They're going to get paid anyway. See, that's disgusting. Took my son to see Kyrie when he was with Brooklyn play for the Bulls for his 18th because my son is a fan of both. And a half hour before the game, he was a late scratch. That would make me hate that player. I'm not going to lie. One of the times that I got to see Jordan play live was in 90s. So Rodman was on the team. So thankfully, I did get to see Rodman play in person. And had he not played that game, I guarantee you he would not have been my favorite player. That's also a great present. Going to a game, because first of all, going to fucking NBA games back then or today is not cheap. And it is an investment of time and energy because it's going to a stadium, which are never fun to get to. It's getting to your seats. It's, the food in the stadium is ludicrously expensive. It's just a pain in the ass. So the fact that you would do that for your son, I feel incredibly grateful because my mom did it for me. And it's an experience I'll never forget in my entire life. It's disappointing that Kyrie didn't play. Not only would have been heartbroken, I'm heartbroken for your son. That's bullshit. That's exactly the kind of thing that disgusts me about the modern NBA is there's absolutely no guarantee that the person that you're going to see is actually going to play. And that's just disappointing. I saw in the 90s, from the 80s to the 90s, I was fortunate enough. I think I probably saw 20 NBA games. Most of them were Sonics games. Well, actually, no, they were all Sonics games because I live in Seattle. But I did get to see the Bulls a few times, but I got to see almost all of the greats in person live. And it would have fucking crushed me if in any one of those games Ewing didn't play or Magic didn't play or Bird didn't play, because most people don't get many opportunities to see their heroes in person, to see them play. And the other thing that was just an absolute gift about it is every single time I saw one of the greats play, they fucking delivered. They played their hearts out. They didn't flop because flopping didn't really exist back then, but they played offense. They played defense. I said in one of my recent videos, I don't think two-way player should be a word. A basketball player is a two-way player. A one-way player is a selfish prick that only plays offense. That should be the word. Two-way player shouldn't exist. That's just a basketball player. One-way player is an embarrassment. Oh, my dad took us to Atlanta to see MJ play and he heckled the crowd. That's some dangerous shit. So my dad was just a gangster motherfucker. He just didn't care and he was a badass. I was actually thinking about doing a video on him recently because I found an old picture of him and he's just a bad motherfucker. It's unfortunate he's not with us anymore. But we back when the Kingdom was a thing all those years ago, we saw a few Seahawks games and we were playing against the Raiders. And I've never been a Seahawks fan. It always broke my dad's heart, but I was just never a fan of them. And I was more of a Raiders fan than a Seahawks fan. So I believe I was wearing a Bo Jackson jersey because this was in the late 80s. I want to say like 88, 89. And he's a diehard Seahawks fan. And what the hell do they call them? What are they called? The Lakers fans. It's completely slipped my mind because I haven't watched football in a number of years. The Black Doom or whatever the hell they are. They are some crazy ass fans and they take that shit very seriously. But my dad was going at him and I thought we were going to have to fight. I'm glad we didn't. But that's what I like about dads, especially old school dads. They don't give a shit. They're going to talk shit. And if they have to fight, they have to fight. They don't care. I've always respected that. How long has this been going on for? 51 minutes. Goddamn. I'm definitely down to stay and keep talking, but I just want to say that I appreciate you guys hanging out and tapping in with me for this second live stream. This is still something that I am trying to figure out and master, and it's going to be a long process. But actually, before I started my live stream, I made a video. I don't know if any of you guys saw it, but it's called Being Terrible is Good for You. And I had to remind myself of that because this is a skill that I don't have yet. And so I'm having to do as I say and do something that I'm terrible at and just accept it and know that I will get better. I think you're right. I think that is why I'm a Rodman fan. I respect and appreciate heart and somebody who's going to go until they can't go anymore. And that's absolutely the way I have tried to live my life my entire life. Sometimes I've been better at it than others. But yeah, it's but I have to say, I really appreciate you guys. This has been a terribly enjoyable experience for me. I really appreciate that you guys have been chatting and adding to the conversation. It's not something that I really expected to be able to experience. When I watched Angry Old Hoops and Self-Researched NBA Facts do their lives, that's where I wanted to be. I was like, I want to be one of those people on those lives. And the fact that I was even able to do it a few times fucking blew my mind. As a Bears fan, what do you think about them potentially moving to Indiana? I don't really pay attention to the NFL very much anymore, but I did recently hear that they may be moving. And I thought that was interesting. Even though I'm not really a football fan anymore, I was a huge fan of the NFC North. And while I did not love the Bears or love the Lions and fucking hated the Packers, I always respected the Bears. They have so many different so many different players that I have the utmost respect for. And I'm heartbroken for Chicago fans if they leave. I was going to say that would really be hard for me. I don't necessarily think it's true that Kobe was a carbon copy of Jordan. I will say I believe when he first got into the league, I do think he was trying to be Michael Jordan. But I think after the first 2 years of him in the league and kind of getting to befriend Jordan and certainly have Jordan as a mentor, that kind of shifted. And then he became his own man. And I absolutely respected him for that because he easily could have just his entire career modeled his game after Jordan and tried to do all of the things that Jordan did. And he probably still would have been successful, but probably not as respected. And as I said before, I have the utmost respect for Kobe, and I still go back and read his book. I still go back and watch his documentaries. God, what the hell is his name? There's a guy, Joseph Vincent, who has a YouTube channel, and he just dropped a Kobe video that if you have not seen, I absolutely recommend. First of all, because Joseph Vincent just does absolutely amazing content. He is at the absolute top of his game. But it is an absolutely fantastic Kobe video. So if you are a fan of Kobe, I certainly recommend going to his channel and checking it out. No, absolutely. I completely agree with that. He chose to follow his own path. And the thing that's hilarious about LeBron is he's tried to do everything that Jordan did. He just did it at a subpar level. And that's the joke. Had he just decided to take his own path and carve his own way and shut his fucking mouth, he'd probably be so much more respected. I just think that he's far too much of a narcissist to be able to do that. I don't think he can control himself because he has no self-discipline and he loves the sound of his own voice. And when you love the sound of your own voice and you make terrible decisions, it's just going to get you in trouble. But like the whole chalk routine is just an embarrassment. Wearing his numbers just an embarrassment. I've actually, and I'm curious what you guys will think about this. I've always thought that the NBA should retire number 23 across the board like hockey did with number 99. Like, we know who the greatest is. No one else can ever wear that number. Earn your O2. I don't think any of you will know, but that is my brother. And I will always take 10 real viewers over 1,000 people who don't care or benefit. I completely agree. I even said that in a video. I would rather have 8 subscribers that give a shit than 200,000 that don't. He did want to replace MJ and came up short. I mean, he has tried to do everything he possibly could to try to erase Jordan from the ethos. And the reality is he can't. And they need to get rid of, they need to permanently retire 23 across every single team. I mean, I will say that is one thing that I wholeheartedly respect about Pat Riley is him retiring 23 in Miami, even though Jordan never played for that team. He's like, while I am here, no one will wear that fucking number ever. And that's exactly how it should be. The fact that LeBron would even want to wear somebody else's number. I mean, I didn't play sports a whole lot, but I did play baseball, and I was number 13, which is why 13 is still my favorite number to this day. But if somebody else within my little league had wore the number 13 and dominated, I would want to trade numbers. Especially if somebody is doing it better than you. Why the fuck would you want to wear their number? Like, you know, you're going to draw ridicule for that. Especially because now I refer to LeBron as negative 23, the anti-Jordan. Like, come on, man. If you wore number 8 or number 6, or I don't even know what any of his other fucking numbers were because I don't care, I wouldn't be able to make that reference. Absolutely, it was one of his worst mistakes. He could have went with any other number. I think that Kobe went with 24 because it's after 23. I don't necessarily know that for a fact. I know that Kobe had multiple numbers. I don't know the significance of number 24 to Kobe. If somebody does know that, I will say, RP Robinson, if that is true and he stops wearing 23 and says that they should retire that number, he will garner a modicum of respect for me. But if he said that and then continues wearing it, that's just another dickhead move. In 2009? Okay, well then yeah, he's just being a dickhead then. That's him saying what he thinks people want him to say, but then he doesn't stand behind it. I honestly, whenever I think 23, because obviously I think Jordan, I don't ever think LeBron. He is not associated with that number in my mind. I can't remember because I didn't watch the NBA for so long and for a vast majority of LeBron's career. Did he wear 23 in Cleveland or in Miami, or did he only do that with the Lakers? Oh, yeah, the never cheated the game. Apparently, he thinks we don't know what we know or have seen what we've seen. Because what he can't do is not cheat the game. That's literally what he does. Every single time he plays, he finds some way to cheat the game. Because flopping is cheating the game. You're trying to buy a foul that didn't happen or that you didn't earn. Okay, so yeah, I was pretty sure that he wore number 6, but I feel like I saw him in a Cleveland jersey. Yeah. Okay. So you were, yeah, 23 in Cleveland. Then why the fucking switching around? Like, pick your number and stick with it. The fact that he said that that turnaround fadeaway was his patented shot, I I don't think I've seen him take that shot before. Or if I did, he didn't make it. That's just crazy to me. I honestly have to assume that he thinks that nobody watches games. I mean, because even Adam Silver said that, this is now a league of highlights. So I have to assume that he took that as gospel, as no one watches the games. They only watch highlights. Because how else could you say shit like that? Not only is it so easily disprovable. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, he couldn't wear 23 in Miami because it's retired, like I had mentioned. That does make sense. So I got to ask you guys, I really have to go to the bathroom. Are you guys down to wait or should I just end this? Yeah, he did. He didn't he say something along the lines of it's not like I practice flopping, which I would actually have to agree because when he does flop, he just has no finesse at all. Absolutely none. I genuinely wouldn't be surprised if he did fuck up his elbow when he was trying to fake fall. All right, give me like 30 seconds. I will be right back. All right, guys, sorry about that. I just drink way too much damn water. Dude, his flopping is worse than his Space Jam acting, and that's saying something. It's really the only thing that he is consistent at is how consistently he lies. If his lips are moving, you can pretty much guarantee that there's some form of bullshit coming out of it. I just don't understand how, and I mean, and maybe it's just mindset, maybe it's personality, maybe it's upbringing, maybe it's integrity. There's a quote that I've always liked, and it says, "It's better to be hated for who you are than loved for who you are not." And he clearly doesn't care either way. No, that's exactly what it is. That's why I don't understand where his lies come from. There's proof, there's evidence that shows that you're full of shit. Well, he talks out of both sides of his mouth so often, he can't keep track of his lies. So he'll say one thing 1 minute and then completely contradict himself the next. And because he can't remember what he said, he has to assume that everybody else can't remember what he says. And he really just doesn't understand that the internet exists. And his fans are 100% a reflection of him. And I don't know how they can't see that. I've always been a firm believer that damaged people attract damaged people and healthy people attract healthy people. And he is definitely a damaged person. So all he's doing is attracting damaged people. There's something that constantly comes up, and it's that he didn't have a dad growing up in his life. And there are people that excuse his behavior because of that. Well, he didn't have a dad growing up. He didn't have a male role model growing up. He didn't have anybody, to tell him that that wasn't okay, or, to show him how to live. I didn't really have my dad growing up. That's a bullshit cop out excuse. Which lie is the most egregious? Oh, fucking hell. What is the most? That's the problem, is there's so many. There are so many lies. I think I've never cheated a game is absolutely a huge one. And then, yeah, I think the not or numbers guy has to be on that list. I posted, because Uncommon Sense did a video about that, and I posted a comment on it, and yeah, some fanboy came at me underneath it. And I was like, this is indefensible. And it's for so many reasons. First of all, how is a not a numbers guy going to wear a t-shirt that says check my stats? That discredits what you say right there. However, secondly, he is on the bench on a tablet checking his stats mid-game every game. It's why in that game, when he got the triple double at 41, it's why he was yelling about Austin Reeves taking that rebound, because he knew exactly how many he needed to get that triple double. Yeah, 4 rings in 23 years isn't an accomplishment. It's a fucking embarrassment. So I had done a video on that, breaking down that the percentage of LeBron's career that he has won a championship is currently at 18%. I think it's like 18.4%. When he does not win a ring this year, because there's no fucking way that's happening, it will drop to below 17%. 17% of his career, he's won a championship. Jordan is at 40%. And yet there are people that want to turn 4-6 into being better than 6-0, and not just 6-0, but 2 3-peats. I would love, because remember Rich Paul talking about the Lakers should trade Austin Reeves? I hope they do. I hope he goes somewhere else. I don't necessarily respect him as a player either, but he's putting in a lot more work than LeBron. So I would hope that he will go somewhere else where, I mean, respected. That's respect, may be saying too much, where at least he'll be appreciated. Let's say that. The problem is, so actually, I'm curious what you guys think. I was going to say, sorry to get off topic, but there is a rumor that LeBron is going back to Cleveland. It's not definitive yet, but it is highly suggestible that he is going back to Cleveland. However, Jeannie Buss said that LeBron can stay in LA. Which do you guys think is going to happen? I think he's probably going to go back to Cleveland. And the reason why I say that is because they're attempting to build another super team there. Though the thing that makes me laugh about that is they traded for Harden. And if you want to build a super team, he has to be the scapegoat. If they are trying to build a super team and LeBron ends up back in Cleveland, James Harden is their scapegoat. Lynetta, you're right. He has absolutely been saying some crazy shit about Jordan. When Max Kellerman was talking about Jordan could average a 40-point triple-double, and then Rich Paul was saying that him and Jordan are friends, I was like, okay, first of all, that's not possible. But then he said something along the lines of people say things about Jordan that even Jordan wouldn't believe. And I was like, first of all, how the fuck would you know? I don't think Rich Paul and Jordan have any relationship. And if they did, I just have to imagine that Jordan is just polite to him because that's what you do. Yeah, I don't think that worked out for him. I think he believed that when Luka came to the team, Luka was just going to play subservient to him and feed him the ball and not have such a high usage percentage, that he was just going to fall in line, kind of like AD did. One thing, mentioning AD, one thing that I will give AD is at least he would take shots at LeBron. Like when LeBron, quote unquote, surpassed Jordan in 30-point games, he just said flat out, well, yeah, but it took him 7 more seasons to do it. Like that just lets you know that AD doesn't respect him. Do you think he'll have control if he goes back to Cleveland? I don't know what their front office looks like. I don't know if any of the same people that are still there. He's not going to a team under 20 million, like paying him 20 million. He was traded after that. Yeah, I was going to say you can't say what you really think about LeBron because you'll be gone. Doesn't matter if you're the GM, the coach, a player, probably the equipment manager. You just have to shut the fuck up and do what you're told, apparently. Wow. Anyway, sorry, I was going to say my brain just shut off for a second. So, what I think this year for his last year, the Lakers have paid him what, 52 million, 54 million. There's no fucking way that another team pays him that much. And there's no way that a team is going to use him as a first option or even a second option. I mean, he's a third option at best. And the reality is he's still a fucking liability because he doesn't play defense and he's not a consistent scorer. I'm actually, I respect Dylan Brooks because he just doesn't seem to give a fuck. And I'm all about that. But he will go at him. I think that's an incredibly accurate point. It's certainly not about honor or love of basketball or competition or loyalty. It really does feel staged like WWE. And it is. It's fake highlights. It's mediocrity masquerading as greatness. And I have to believe that a huge part of it is because most people don't watch actual games. I mean, the reality is I don't watch actual games. The only time I see actual live NBA footage is when I watch 93Z's live stream. And then the only reason why I'm watching it is because we're talking shit about it almost 100% of the time. So it's not like it's being taken seriously. It's a complete fucking joke. That's probably true. I mean, the reality is with how many fanboys are out there, uh, he still brings in money. I mean, how many times do you still see people in the LA crowd with the embarrassing hymn signs or wearing fucking LeBron jerseys or applauding when he's laying on the ground because his vagina hurts? Actually, you know what? That's not fair. That's not fair to women to say that. I just don't understand where integrity has gone, where competition has gone, where any of it has gone. I just can't really watch sports anymore. And it really disappoints me. My brother and a friend of mine, we watched UFC last night. And I think there were 6 matches and 5 of them felt like cuddle fests. And then one dude actually got knocked the fuck out. Even UFC feels like a watered down version of what it was. I mean, I started watching UFC 1. I remember ordering it on pay-per-view and it cost me a shit ton of money. But it delivered. I was going to say, people got knocked out. People got beat up. People's faces were bleeding. And you had to figure it out. And in all of the quote unquote fights that we watched last night, almost all of them went to decision. And every one of those, I just kept thinking to myself, I mean, you won, but did you win? I don't feel like you won anything. If that feels like a consolation prize. That's 100% true. I won't even say that's just left to LA. I think the last of competition and integrity left with Kobe across the entire league. And I believe, and I strongly believe this, that the face of the league, their influence dictates the behavior of the league. When Jordan was the face of the league, I think competition was at its absolute highest because he was the ultimate competitor. When Kobe became the face of the league for that short time that they let him have it, competition was still at an extremely high level. Players were pushing through, they were fighting against, they were competing. I mean, it sounds ridiculous to say, but they were still competing. And RP Robinson, I think you make a good point. Most of these kids didn't grow up playing basketball, learning to lose. Learning to lose is so important in your life. It's one of the most valuable things I ever learned from sports is going out, trying your best, and you fucking lose. And then back then, and it doesn't seem to be a thing anymore, and I mentioned this in my last video, every single baseball game that I played, win or lose, both teams lined up and we went down the line and shook every single person on that team's hand and said, good game. And you could say more than that, but that was the fucking bare minimum that you said. And there was something about when you won, still showing that other team respect that lost, or when you lost, eating shit and having to look that team in the eye and tell them good game. That's what fucking sportsmanship is. And I feel like that shit is gone. I just don't get it. Sportsmanship is fucking gone. Learning to lose is huge. It's so powerful to becoming a better person. I won't even say becoming a man because back in my day, women did it too. To becoming a better person, to taking accountability, to congratulating somebody that just kicked your ass. It sucks. I still remember it to this day. Every single time that we lost and I had to walk that line and tell that person good game, it just burned that into my brain. And I fucking hated it. I did it every single time, but I hated it. But it's incredibly humbling. And that's one of the beauty things of sports is you're guaranteed to lose. Nobody's perfect. Even those rare teams that have had perfect seasons, perfection didn't last forever. You were inevitably going to lose. And the incredibly harsh reality is it was probably going to be to a team that you should have won. Like you're a better team than them, and things just went their way. Yeah, I really struggled with that. I mean, because I'm Gen X, I actually turned 50 this month, and we didn't get participation trophies. I remember there was a first, second, and third place ribbon, and everything else was eat shit, get good. Participation trophies were a joke. I think it I think it's part of the reason why so many kids feel that they're entitled to things that they didn't earn because they've gotten a trophy for everything that they've ever done. And how do you feel like you have to earn anything if you're given something even when you've done nothing? That's kind of why I wish that the moniker of All-Star and the All-Star weekend would go away. I don't think it's earned anymore. I don't think it's merited. And I think it's an accolade that should be removed from people's resume. That's another excellent point. They always give you an excuse of why somebody else won. It's never, I didn't get it done. It's, I let my team down. It was, I missed that play. I had the opportunity to seal the game and I failed. You never hear any of that shit. When I played baseball, I played shortstop and I was pretty good at fielding. I was terrible at batting but I had an arm like a fucking cannon. So if that ball was coming to me and I could stop it, I'm getting that guy on first base before he gets there because I had a fucking rocket. It was the only positive thing about my game. And a big game in our season, it was the deciding factor of whether or not we were going to make it to the playoffs. And I threw the ball hard and fast, but it was nowhere on target. The guy got on base. The next guy who came up hit a home run. I basically lost us the game. And I remember I talked to my dad about it. And the very first thing that he said was, "Did you apologize to your team?" And I was still young. I think I was probably 11 or 12 when that happened. And I was like, "What do you mean apologize to my team?" And he's like, "You let them down." And I just hadn't really thought about it. And so at the next practice, I had to stand up in front of my team and apologize to them because I missed that throw. I let that guy on base. The next guy hit a home run, all on me. And does it suck having to do that? Absolutely, it does. But I think my teammates respected me more for doing it, for acknowledging it, for accepting accountability. That's how respect is earned. Respect isn't always earned in the positive shit that you do. Sometimes it's earned in the negative shit that you do. They do. They always cover for him. What was that whole spiel that came up about he needs to get to his routine early? That's why he leaves the court before the game is over a few different times when there was still time on the fucking clock because he needs to have his whatever fucking smoothie it is. That shit was disgusting. And that the media just ran with it like, first of all, like it was okay, because it's absolutely not okay. He didn't do shit in that game and he didn't do shit in the next game. So waiting 10 minutes later to have your smoothie isn't going to make a bit of difference. That's what somebody in the media should have said, but they didn't, because he apparently gets a get out of blame free card. He does. He changes his story all the time. And he's not smart enough to remember all of the lies that he's created. So he just ends up lying over lies. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't even know if I have a modicum of hope at this point for sports. How do you know? Pretty sure I have a few ideas, but I'm certainly curious to hear what you have to say. Well, what's funny is I think my answer differs from most people. Oh, and they have to insert him because he has no legitimate argument. There are many people I will accept somebody's answer for the greatest of all time in most sports. If we're talking about football and you say, who's the greatest quarterback of all time, and somebody says Brady, I'm okay with that. If somebody says Joe Montana, I'm okay with that. If you're talking about baseball and you say Babe Ruth, Mickey Mantle, Jackie Robinson, Willie Mays, I'm willing to hear all of those. When it comes to basketball, even Kobe, Bird, Kareem, Olajuwon, Bill Russell, willing to hear all of those. But like you said, he has to be inserted into that conversation because he has not merited a place in that conversation. The NBA is the only sports organization that has ever tried to shoehorn someone with a losing record into the greatest conversation. How the fuck do you do that? How does the greatest of all time lose, and win occasionally? I'll hear people's goats and a lot of time I'll even agree with them. Or at least maybe not agree with, because I definitively think that Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player to ever play the game. But if you want to say Wilt or Bill Russell or Magic or Kareem or Bird, I'm willing to hear those arguments. And I think there are validity to each of those arguments. There's absolutely no validity to LeBron even being considered an all-time great. I refuse to consider him in that conversation because he doesn't belong there. Search the greatest fantasy sport and gives multiple answers, but if you search the greatest basketball MJ name comes up. I actually will try that. I don't know if you guys saw my video about even AI lies for LeBron, but it's pretty fucking crazy, the claims that AI made. It obviously, I don't have a deep understanding of it, but I know a few different people that have done the job, and AI has to be taught by a human being to know how to answer, to basically, you're teaching it how to act human. And your opinions, your preferences, your biases absolutely get inserted into that AI. And that's how they have come up with this absolutely outlandish bullshit about anyway, it's just absolutely ridiculous that even artificial intelligence is buying into the narratives and the lies, and it's a fucking joke. Absolutely. I was going to say in my most recent video, I just talk about that. He needs players better than himself to actually win. Because, and I mean, this is just my opinion. I don't have a lot of knowledge about the modern NBA just because, quite frankly, I don't care. But from the understanding that I do have from what I've seen, Dwayne Wade, better player. Chris Bosh, better player. Ray Allen, better player. Kyrie Irving, better player. Kevin Love, better player. Anthony Davis, better player. Luka Doncic, better player. And even though some of those guys didn't play defense, they're still better players. And the point that somebody brought up in that video was, or he needs specialists that can do things that he can't do. So, like, he needs shooters because he can't shoot. How the fuck can the greatest of all time not be a shooter in the game of basketball? That's another excellent point. How the fuck can LeBron teach anyone anything unless he's going to teach them flopping, complaining to the refs, or hitting the side of the backboard? I don't think he has anything to teach anyone. That was a narrative that I first heard when I started watching the NBA again, is that big men can't shoot threes or can't shoot free throws. Now, there are obviously big men that couldn't shoot free throws. However, I think it had nothing to do with their size. I think it had everything to do with the fact that they don't practice it because it's fucking boring. So, like, Shaq couldn't shoot free throws. LeBron can't shoot free throws. However, Bird, who is exactly the same height, averaged 15% more free throws than LeBron in his career because Bird gave a shit. And he understood free throws matter. And that's what it comes down to. They didn't practice because the free throw is the only shot in the game of basketball that doesn't change. It's the exact same shot every time that you take it. So if you're not good at it, it's because you're not practicing. There's no other excuse. Height has nothing to do with it. I would at least respect him if he said that. At least if he just said, I can't be fucking bothered with free throws, so I'm just not going to do it. At least I could respect that. That's having an opinion and standing behind it, but he doesn't have the balls to say that. He would make an excuse. He would find some way to blame someone else for his inability to shoot free throws. I'm surprised it hasn't come up. In fact, I'm probably going to Google it after this. I have to imagine in 23 years that he's come up with a reason that it's somebody else's fault that he can't shoot free throws. Which, the thing that I find hilarious about that, because it's absolutely true that he loves dropping grenades in other people's laps, but then gets pissed when somebody does it to him. Like, the one that stood out to me was the last second pass that he made to Rui, but Rui made the shot from the corner. But when Luka dropped the grenade in his lap and he actually had more time than Rui had, he was only pissed because he missed. If he made that shot, he would have been fine with it. Another great point. That's absolutely something that I believe. If you are a star, that's why you're paid. You're paid to make that shot. In the clutch, when it comes down to it, that's why you're paid. Because making shots in the first quarter or even the third quarter, who gives a shit? Anybody can do that. Absolutely terrible players can play in the first three quarters. Do you play in the fourth quarter? And that's where he becomes a fucking joke. I love that that picture that Uncommon Sense photoshopped, and it says, "Don't check my stats in the fourth quarter." No, and I loved the fact that he got a dose of his own medicine. And it just goes to show what a whiny bitch he really is. He had an opportunity there when he was handed that grenade and missed that shot. He could have earned my respect if he just said in that moment, you know what? I let my team down. Luka passed me the ball because he didn't trust the look that he had. So he gave it to the greatest of all time, and I let him down. Not Luka shouldn't have passed me that ball, or I was off balance, or oh, my elbow hurt, or whatever bullshit excuse that he came up with for why he didn't make that shot. I think it was AOH that did a breakdown of numerous occasions where he passed the ball to somebody within the last few seconds of the game, and they all had more. He had more time on the clock than all of them, and they all made theirs, and he didn't make his. Yeah. He's definitely not a point guard. He likes to pretend like he is. He likes to pretend that he's, commanding the game and dictating the flow of the ball, but he really has nothing to do with it. I think that's one of the biggest questions that I have, and not just even for his teammates. So, like, I'll be honest, I can't even remember who the hell he flopped against last night where he claimed to hurt his elbow. How are those players not standing over him, yelling at him, saying, "Get up, bitch, quit faking it, get up"? I wouldn't be able to just stand there silently. There's no way, especially after this long and this many years of him doing it. I'm probably going to go over there and kick him, and I'll just accept the fine. I I genuinely believe that the league has become so much about image, and RP was talking about that. It's become so much about image. It has nothing to do with playing the game. It has nothing to do with winning. It all has to do with how you're perceived. And I know that the players today love to blame social media, but I'm like, you're the one giving social media that power. If I told you guys my first and last name and you Google me, you can find people with my same name. You can't find me. And it's not because I'm trying to hide myself. I just don't use social media because it serves no fucking purpose in my life. I have an Instagram account. I have a Facebook account. I have an X account. I don't use any of them. And then if I do use them, they're not under my fucking name. They're under an alias. Because that shit's just not important. And I don't understand how it got to be so important for people. And it could just be because I'm fucking old. I have no idea what it's like to grow up in this time and be a teenager or in my 20s. I don't know what that's like. And thank God I don't know what that's like. It has to be incredibly hard. And I'm not excusing anyone or their behavior or their shortcomings or mindset or whatever, but it's got to be difficult. When I was growing up, there was nothing like social media. No one had a camera, almost never. I don't think there's a single record of my childhood, with the exception of a few snapshot pictures. And I would guarantee that if you were to go 5 minutes before that picture was taken or 5 minutes after, probably some deviant shit was going on, but there's just no record of it. I don't know what it's like to have to worry about any moment in my life could be recorded without my knowledge and could resurface 10 years later and ruin my life. I have no idea what that's like. No, you're right. It's about popularity. It's certainly about gambling. My God, when we were watching UFC last night, there were probably 20, 30 different gambling commercials. And the thing that's crazy is in Washington, where I live, you can't gamble. So those promotions aren't for us. Obviously, you can gamble in a lot of other states and a lot of other cities and whatnot. It's absolutely creating that celebrity image. I will say I'm glad I grew up without social media, but I'm also lucky because unlike kids of today, I didn't stay at home and play video games and look at screens. I was out in the world being, I don't even know the right word, adventurous. Let's just say that I was getting into all kinds of shit. It really is ruining the sport. I think it's going to bring it to its end. I don't think this whole like gambling scandal is over or finished. I think it's being investigated. And I think there is going to be retribution at some point. There's going to be consequences for some individuals. Like, it hasn't just disappeared, it's just gone out of the zeitgeist for the moment because it's not hard hitting news. It's not going to get clicks and views at the moment, but it will. I wish that the problem is you can't trust people. I honestly would have no problem with athletes gambling if they always bet on themselves to win. If it would be impossible for them to bet on themselves to lose, because then you have people throwing matches, you have people blowing plays, you have people doing all kinds of disingenuous shit. I would actually be all for it. The problem is you can't do it with 100% success rate. But I wouldn't have an issue with somebody saying, I'm going to bet that I'm going to win, especially if I'm the underdog. I'm going to bet on myself to win. And because all of these people don't think I can get it done, I'm going to profit from that. I wouldn't have an issue with that. But again, you just can't do it reasonably or responsibly or definitively. So I just wish it was banned ubiquitously across the board. Just don't allow it at all, because if it's a possibility, people will find a way to exploit it. No, it's absolutely true. And I mean, this has been going on since uh I remember there was a movie about it, 8 Men Out. I mean, this was like what, 1918, 1920. This has been going on for well over 100 years, where people bet on themselves to lose and end up throwing games. See, that's crazy. I mean, and I'm not going to lie, I'm not even surprised that the Lakers without LeBron win against a team that's over 500, because he is their anchor. He just drags them down. And just like in the 2011 finals, they can't overachieve for as much as he's bringing them down. No, you're absolutely right. And that's why it shouldn't be allowed in any capacity. But that is where there are shortcomings, because yeah, they have friends bet for them, they have family members bet for them. I mean, they themselves can just go to a bookie and do whatever the hell they want to do. Excuse me. It's just disgusting that it's even a thing. I don't get how we've gotten to this place. But I mean, I guess it is what it is. People are going to do whatever the hell they want to do, and they're going to find a way to do it. I'll actually say, even though I am not a Lakers fan, I wasn't a Lakers fan even before LeBron got there, but I'm certainly not a fan after. I'm glad that they won. Dude, I hate analytics so much. Analytics have helped ruin the game. And I wouldn't be surprised if analytics and betting have gone hand in hand. And it's easy because the 3-point shot is a less consistent shot. I think it could easily tie into betting, because I think players could make more 3-point shots than they do. It's easy for them to say, I missed that shot. It's a lower percentage shot. What gets me now that I just can't believe is the amount of missed layups, the airball layups, the airball free throws. I just don't remember that shit happening in the 80s and 90s when I watched the majority of sports. Like, how is that possible? I don't know. Then again, like, I made those videos about how much the modern era players fall down. That didn't used to be a thing. Or at least I still need to make that third video. But the level of effort that was being put in that caused an 80s or 90s player to fall down, in comparison to what caused a modern era player to fall down, is entirely different. And the officiating is diabolical. First of all, because none of modern era officiating follows the rule book. Because if it did, it would be raining technicals. Players would be fouling out in the first quarter from travels, carries, push-offs. I would be able to tolerate it further if they accept it or if they change the rule book. That's the biggest issue that I have with it is their officiating is contradictory to the rule book. If you want to change the game and allow all of this stuff, while I disagree with it, I would have to accept it if they went in and changed the rule book and said, because like if you look in the rule book for what an assist is, 90% of assists today wouldn't count. And I mean, and I'm paraphrasing at best, but it's your pass to the player results in a direct shot on the basket. A direct shot on the basket. Not you pass the player the ball, they dribble 4 times, make a spin move, and then make a contested shot, which I mean, I'm not even saying that's the case all of the time. But it's just in defiance of the rule book, and that's why I have the biggest problem with it. Change the fucking rules. If you want to allow 4 gather steps off of the pivot foot, okay, do I agree with it? Again, no, absolutely not. You're destroying the integrity of the game. But at least if it's in the rule book, I can say, well, I just don't agree with these rules anymore. But it is what it is. But it's in complete contrast to the rule book, which is why I have such a problem with it. And then it's not even consistent across the board. Their poor officiating isn't even consistent. It's dependent on the 2 teams that are playing. It's dependent on the superstar and how much or how popular that particular player is. Or like a perfect example is the fact that Luka has 15 technicals. If he gets his 16th technical, he will be suspended a game. LeBron has 1. They are the exact same fucking player. Make that make sense. How Luka has 14 more technicals than LeBron does. No, you can't compare them to past eras at all because they're not playing under the same rules. Especially, and this is where I find it most egregious. Any offensive record that is made now should have a huge asterisk next to it because you did it without hand checking and with the 3-second rule. That's a huge difference. That's a huge level of obstacle that you're not having to overcome. And then I also find it hilarious that within that far more difficult era, Jordan averaged 30.1 points per game for his career. And in this soft ass era, players still can't match it. And then they'll have the balls to say that Jordan couldn't play in this era because they're bigger, stronger, faster. They're more skilled. What the fuck are you talking about? It is a watered down, simplified, no defense, no physicality league, and they still can't match Jordan. And I'm supposed to believe that you're more skilled. They've taken away 3/4 of the opposition of you putting the fucking ball in the basket, and you still can't do it. That's why I'm sorry. Like when I hear people talk about SGA, or I hear them talk about Tatum, or I even hear them talk about Wimby, I'm like, is greatness greatness if you didn't have to overcome the same obstacles to achieve it? The answer is no, it isn't. It's not the fucking same. I made a video recently. There needs to be 2 record books: the real record book and then the asterisk record book. Because if you view them under the same lens, that's just wrong. You can't view them under the same lens because the standard for achieving them wasn't the same. Well, I mean, they had to double down on it because if they were being honest, there's so many times where their honesty has slipped through and then they have to awkwardly try to mask over what they said, even though it's what they meant. They have to awkwardly shoehorn LeBron into that conversation. Like when Shannon Sharp said Clarissa Shields was the Michael Jordan of boxing. And then he had to immediately backtrack and say the LeBron James of boxing. Now, you do exactly what you were saying when you said it. And the reason why you said the Michael Jordan of boxing is because she'd never lost. That's why you said Michael Jordan. If she was 4-6, you probably would have said LeBron. Or even when Rich Paul said he would want Michael Jordan to take the last shot in the game. And then when he got in trouble for that, he said he had to say, but I would want LeBron to pass him the ball. Well, who gives a fuck who passes him the ball? You still want him to take the last shot because you know he's going to get it done and you know LeBron wouldn't. Like they're just fucking ridiculous. It's called a Freudian slip because the truth slipped through and you didn't want it to. It just doesn't make fucking sense. Oh, I just get tired of the lies and the narratives and the revisionist history and the misrepresentation of facts and data and how they constantly try to gaslight me into thinking I didn't see what I saw. I watched the game. I was there. I saw it. Some of it I saw in person with my own eyes in real time. You can't make me believe that it didn't happen because I know it did. So what the fuck are you talking about? It's insane to me that we have to defend honesty. We have to defend reality because it's constantly under attack. Well, that's the kind of shit that doesn't make sense. They just like saying things because they sound good. They don't have to substantiate them in any way. And then they're so easily disproven. Like the greatest scorer of all time wouldn't be afraid of somebody looking into that claim. If somebody were to say to Jordan, you know, people constantly keep saying that you're the greatest scorer of all time. We're really going to look at all that statistical data and really find that answer. He'd be like, great. Let me know what you find out. I led the league in scoring 10 times. I'll wait while you find somebody that did it more than me or more consistently than me. He wouldn't care. But I guarantee if you told LeBron, we're going to examine every game that you have played, and statistically, we're going to break down who the greatest scorer of all time is. Having the most points all time does not mean you're the greatest scorer of all time. We're going to look into seeing where you rank amongst greatest scorers of all time. I highly fucking doubt LeBron would pass James Harden. I don't think there's any way around that, because the reality is he's not a great scorer. When he surpassed Kareem in most field goals made, it took him 3,000 more fucking shots to do it. That's not something that the greatest scorer of all time has to do. It doesn't take the greatest scorer of all time 3,000 more shots to pass that record. When he beat Jordan in 30-point games, it doesn't take 7 more seasons for the greatest scorer of all time to do that. No, that's exactly what it is. They just see a bigger number. They don't need any fucking context. They just see, oh, he has 43,000 points. Well, that's more than any other person's point total. He must be the greatest. Really? You don't want any context for that? Context is irrelevant? I said it before, context is the kryptonite of LeBron and his fanboys. The second that you bring in context, their entire argument and fallacy falls apart. It's just not real. No, I absolutely think that's a thing. So my nephew is 17 years old. He knows absolutely jack shit about jack shit. And when I ask him who's the greatest player, the greatest basketball player of all time, he says LeBron. And I was like, why do you think that? Tell me why you're going to say that. And first of all, he can't. He can't back up that statement at all. He can't articulate why he even thinks he's the greatest of all time. And so I said, okay, you know, this is what my YouTube channel is on. Let's have this conversation. I was going to say, you're 17. You think you know everything. Break it down for me. Let's have this conversation. And he can't, because he doesn't know shit. All he does is parrot back whatever he saw on Instagram. That's all that he does. And because he glazes for LeBron, that's all his reel is filled with, is people saying how great LeBron is. I think LeBron's a piece of shit. So when I do go to my Instagram, it's just filled, like, all it does is perpetuate what you already think. It fits you in this box and it just feeds whatever your perspective is. It doesn't make you critical think. It doesn't show you contrary opinions that show you that you're fucking wrong. It feeds what you already think you know. It's just become the norm for information, period. It is incredibly rare that when I'm looking around on YouTube, that the algorithm will recommend channels that praise LeBron. Because the algorithm knows that I don't watch that and I don't believe in it, but it wants me to keep watching. So it feeds me new channels that I've never heard of that also think LeBron is an ass. Algorithms are everywhere. They're in Google, they're in YouTube, they're in all of our social media, and they just drowned us in things that we already think. So if what you think is wrong, no one's ever telling you that. And if you're a moron and don't critical think and don't question your own thoughts or your own reasoning or your own logic, why would you ever think anything otherwise? It's just telling you what you want to hear. And that's all most people want, is to hear what they want to hear. It's funny because I've had a few different people call me an old head like it was an insult. And I was like, dude, that's a fucking moniker I wear proudly. I started using new head as an insult, and it just means you're too fucking stupid to question anything. I will constantly question the things that I think. I want to surround myself with people that are going to challenge what I think. I don't want to be surrounded by fucking sycophants and yes men that are just going to be like, John, you're great. Everything that you do is great. Because it's not. And how the fuck do you get better or improve if everybody tells you that you're already great? That's one of my biggest problems with LeBron, is he's just surrounded himself by people that will only tell him, you're the greatest. You don't make mistakes. You have the highest IQ ever. You're the greatest of all time. If people were telling me that shit, I'm going to start questioning them. Young heads, I like that too. It's actually probably better because, like the saying goes, youth is wasted on the young. Uh, it's funny because I went back and I watched my very first video, and my very first video was the LeBron fanboy excuse checklist. And I even did a revised version of it, and I'll probably have to do a version 3 at some point. But they just go down the checklist. They don't even realize that they're doing it. And even when I pointed it out to them, these are the 10 things that you do all the time, they still don't get it. It still doesn't register to them that they are checking every box down the list. They just can't even see it. I don't know. I really wish that things would change, but if I'm being completely honest, I don't hold a lot of hope for it. I want it to, but as my dad used to tell me, want in one hand and shit in the other and see which fills up faster. Oh, yeah, all the time. My only issue with the not having a father is the reason why he is the way that he is I still feel like that's excusing his behavior. I would say, especially as somebody that did not have a dad growing up until my late teens, maybe in my youth, that's okay. If I was 10, 15 years old, I would say that is a legitimate excuse. At 40 years old, you've had ample time to figure it the fuck out, make your own decisions, and be your own man. I definitely think it does play an influence. 100%. A male role model, especially a positive role model in those frontal lobe developing years of your life, in your primary years of influence, it's huge. But I do think when they say it now, when he's 41 years old, that is a fucking excuse. I was going to say, especially when you're a fucking billionaire, go to therapy, get some fucking help, get some counseling, like get some medication, whatever the fuck you need to do. You don't have any excuse. What were they talking about? God, I wish my brain worked better. It had something to do with when LeBron was on the 2008 Olympic team and they basically brought in Jason Kidd to be his fucking babysitter. And they were talking about how they called LeBron's posse or entourage the enablers because they just allowed him to do whatever the fuck he wanted, whenever the fuck he wanted, and they never questioned, challenged, or anything like that. Oh, 100%. You can tell the difference. And I mean, I think having a father in your life is incredibly valuable. I certainly don't want anybody to think that I'm saying that doesn't hold value and isn't likely going to put you in a better position in life. I just don't like it when it's used as an excuse for his behavior, as in it's justifying his behavior because he didn't have it. It is so absolutely important. And I've never been a parent because I didn't have kids, but I did have stepkids and their dad left a lot to be desired. We'll just say that. So I was an incredible, and I don't want to sound like I'm glazing myself. I had the opportunity to be a positive male role model in their life. And from a relatively young age, when they came into my life, they were 11 and 13. You know, that's when they're starting to get into shit and get out into the world and, you know, and start making poor decisions. That's typically when that stuff starts to happen. I took being a stepdad incredibly seriously because I know how integral that male role model is in life. And part of the reason why I know is because I didn't have it for a significant portion. But yeah, I definitely remember them talking about how he just acted like he was entitled to everything and all of the staff was there basically to be at his beck and call, and that he kind of treated them like servants, if I'm remembering correctly, which is just disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. one of the things that I learned early on, and it seems to be another thing that has just disappeared from our society, is treating everyone exactly the same. So, like, I came from a very blue collar family, and I have seen so many people have tradesmen over to their house, whether to work on their kitchen or their bathroom or their yard or whatever, and they treat them like indentured servants. And I'm like, okay, first of all, not only is that not okay, but if you want to get the best out of those people, if you want them to do their best work, dude, make them your fucking friend. Treat them better than you treat yourself. Buy them drinks. Ask them how their day is. Show them that you respect them and that you care about them, and they will go way fucking above and beyond, especially because so very few people do that. I can't tell you how many tradespeople have come to my house and they're like, oh my God, I wish everybody was like this. And I'm offended because I'm like, what do you mean? Everybody's not? And they're like, oh no, there are people that won't let us come into their house to use the bathroom. And I'm like, okay, that's fucking crazy. To this day, and again, I'm not trying to fucking prop myself up or act like I'm better than anyone. I get a lot of packages to my house. UPS, FedEx, Amazon, DoorDash, a lot of people come to my house. Partially because I'm a crippled fuck and I can't go anywhere, so I need everybody to bring my shit to me. But because I know that, I put a box out in front of my house with drinks and treats in it because I don't want to do their fucking job. That job's hard ass work. I couldn't do it. I was going to say I'm not physically capable of doing that job. So I show extra appreciation for the people that bring me the shit that I can't go and get. I think the way that you treat anyone in any service industry is a huge reflection on your character as a human being. The way that you treat servers, the way that you treat tradespeople, the way that you treat customer service people is a huge reflection on you. And as soon as I saw that they were saying that he was treating staff like shit, it just solidified in my mind he's a fucking terrible person. Everyone feels fucking entitled these days. I just don't get it. I just don't understand it at all. My nephew, again, feels he's entitled to fucking everything, but he's done nothing to deserve anything. But he thinks he has. Just for being alive, he deserves the best of everything. I just don't understand that mindset. Hell yeah, I remember that. G.I. Joe knowing is half the battle. I'd love to know what your theory is on that. I'd really like to know where it came from because I've been trying to figure it out. I've been trying to figure out where it's control day. People grow up with iPads, of the internet and social media is the real world. I was actually just going to say something similar to that. I think that's exactly what it is. is they believe that the manufactured world that they see on people's social media, because people don't post about how shitty and mundane their life is. All they do is post the absolute peak moments of, look at this badass vacation I went on, or look at this new car that I bought, or look at this really cool restaurant that I've gone to. Nobody posts about, well, I mean, okay, maybe some people do. Most people only post about all of the really good things in their life or all of their privileges. And as much as people like to deny it, their flexes. Yeah, absolutely. That is absolutely the problem with algorithms is it learns your opinions, what you like and what you believe, and then it just overruns you with it. So there's no way that you could think anything else. Yeah, it's not your fault. Diets don't work. Oh, wow. I definitely remember seeing something on that. Uh, there were these people that went to Disneyland and they were bitching because they were too fat to go on any of the rides or enjoy the restaurants comfortably. And I have all of these opinions as somebody that had a morbidly obese dad. At one point, my brother was morbidly obese. Both of my sisters were morbidly obese. I think I'm the only person in my immediate family that has never been morbidly obese. And it's because I don't let myself become morbidly obese. That's how I do it. I don't understand that shit at all. Man, reading is becoming a dying art form. If you ask most people to read something out loud that they have not read before, they're going to fuck it up because they don't really know how. If you ask most people what's the last book that you read, their answer will be, I haven't read a book recently. I don't always read. I should read more. I found out recently and it absolutely blew my fucking mind. I don't know if it's a disorder or if it's just the way that some people's brains work. When I read a book, I see that entire world in my head. I have visions of what those characters look like. I have a vision of what that world looks like. And there are people, from my understanding, they're just reading fucking words. There are no images taking place in their brain. And I'm like, I'm sorry. That sounds like your brain is fucked up because the reality is it's how I solve a lot of problems. Like if you were to ask me, a math problem, and I don't just mean an easy one like fucking multiplication or addition. I mean like a more abstract math problem. I see it in my head. Like I literally am writing out the numbers in my brain and I see it. And apparently there are people that does not happen. They do not see images when they think. Like if I'm trying to recall a memory, I'm literally bringing up that event in my brain and examining it like I'm there. And apparently there are people that doesn't happen. See, that's crazy because I'm actually a huge ebook reader. I read the majority of my stuff on a Kindle, and there's a few different reasons why I do that. A, because I typically read at night, and it's nice to not have to have a book light. Two, if I fall asleep while I'm reading, when I open that book, it's right to the page that I left off on. I may have to go back, one or two, depending on how drowsy I got. I would never have the fucking thing read to me. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I've listened to a few audiobooks, but I think that's different because I think you're still garnering information from that. But I also still like reading actual paper books. There's something more tangible about that medium. And I don't know why. Sometimes I feel like I comprehend more from reading a physical book. I remember more. There's something very nice about holding a physical book. I just don't do it all the time. I'm also not going to lie. I I collect too many fucking things. I have a pretty big record collection. It takes up a lot of space. I have a pretty big Blu-ray and DVD collection. It takes up a lot of space. I had to find a way to shrink one of my mediums and I can fit like 10,000 books on my Kindle or something fucking ridiculous. So it's just it eliminates having another thing that I have to store. No, I absolutely agree with that. It's just like if you handwrite something, you're far more likely to retain it than if you type it out. Dude, I collect way too many fucking things. I have an addiction. I went from drinking and smoking to using drugs and I gave all that shit up and it just transferred my addiction just transferred to other things cuz now I just have too much shit, but I also love it all so I'm not getting rid of it. And I could also I could never sell it. Like the idea of selling my albums would break my heart. The idea of selling all my movies would break my heart. The idea of selling all of my collectibles would break my heart. I couldn't do it. I think it's from Fight Club, but Tyler Durden says the things we owned end up owning us. He wasn't entirely wrong. I am definitely guilty of my things owning me. Oh my God. Yeah, I collect shoes too. I also collect hats. Oh my God. I've been obsessed with Deadpool for way too long. So I have a bunch of Deadpool shit. I have far too much NBA memorabilia, fucking jerseys and cards and uh I don't know if you action figures, statues, whatever, pictures. I just love it all. And it's not going to go anywhere anytime soon. In fact, the older I get, the fucking worse it gets. Comics makes me sad, man. I had such an amazing collection of comics and I lost them all. I'll see. That's awesome. I would love to do that, but I am I tried so I was oh my god, I think I was 18 years old and I moved from one place to the other and I had to put a bunch of my stuff in storage and I lost my job and I couldn't afford to pay for the storage. And the problem was all the shit of value that I had was in that storage unit. So I couldn't even sell some of it to pay for the storage unit. So I ended up losing the storage unit. If somebody, I mean, Storage Wars didn't exist back then, but if it did, somebody fucking made out on that because I had a shit ton of vinyl records, a shit ton of Magic the Gathering cards, a shit ton of Pokemon cards, a shit ton of comic books, and my knife collection. Like they easily could have made tens of thousands of dollars because I'm stupid. They were. I mean, I had some really, really old, well, because this was from when I was 18. So we're talking 32 years ago. So yeah, I believe I had like X-Men 1, Silver Surfer #1, uh, some really rare ones. I think I owned almost the entirety of Daredevil's comics, Deadpool's comics, and this is like before the Daredevil movies came out, the Deadpool movies came out. Um, I've always just been obsessed with this shit. Oh, I know that the Magic cards are worth a ton of money. I looked up a few of them because I know that I owned 2 original Black Lotuses and they sell for 6 digits now. You know, it's one of those things like I could let it bum me out, but it was really a live and learn experience. I always took care of my things, but I think it really taught me to appreciate my things. Like, I don't know if I would have the things that I have now if I hadn't lost those things. Like, sometimes, you know, lessons learned are painful, but valuable. So it was a valuable lesson to learn. I try not to look up the price of any of the stuff that I know is in there because it just makes me want to cry. Uh, but thankfully, I still have some of them. I uh, I have the market really fell out of sports cards. Um, I have a Tom Brady rookie card. I have Dennis Rodman's rookie card autographed. I have David Robinson's rookie card. I have Michael Jordan's rookie card. I still have some nice stuff. The problem is the value is really irrelevant because I don't think I could ever get rid of it. Like the idea of selling it, I don't think I could do it. I mean, I would have to be in some incredibly dire straits to want or to have to get rid of that stuff. I just don't think I could do it. Yeah, I have been incredibly blessed with some of the things that I have been able to acquire in my life. And a lot of it's luck. A lot of the time they were gifts. Yeah, my brother is incredibly it is also Gem Mint 10 and is under lock and key because uh that may be my retirement one day if I need it. It is in an incredibly protected lockbox that is waterproof and fireproof and is protected with things. That you know what's crazy about the Jordan rookie card is I pulled it from a pack of, what is it, 85 Fleer. Yeah, I just bought random packs when I was 8 or 9 years old, maybe 10 years old. And it did come with the bubble gum. Thankfully, not on that card because it wouldn't be Gem Mint 10 if it did. Because I had a few different cards that came with the gum, and the gum was on the back of the card, and it just stained the shit out of it. Yeah, that was a long, long time ago. It's funny because I don't have almost anything from my life back from back then. I had, all these crazy fucking action figures and shit that would sell for a ton of money. Got rid of all that shit, didn't care. Somehow that card has stayed in my life for all these decades. They're so huge. I mean, I had so many Star Wars action figures. I had so many He-Man and Master of the Universe figures. I had almost all of the original Transformers. And man, especially the originals, they just go for crazy amounts of money. Like, even if you don't have the retail box, even if they've been opened and used, um, there's been a few of them that I have tried to reacquire, as I've gotten older. And yeah, they're too expensive, especially for toys that I know I'm not going to play with. I did not realize that I have been streaming for over 2 hours. I was wondering why I'm feeling lightheaded, and it's because I have not eaten in a while. So I may actually wrap this up. This has been a whole shit ton of fun, and I really appreciate you guys hanging out and interacting so much. Hopefully the Q&A garnered some insight into me, my perspective, and my life. But yeah, I actually think I am going to end this and go eat before I die. So it has been great talking to you guys. RP Lynetta, it has been an absolute blast. I hope when the rest of you get to watch this, or if you were a silent viewer, which is totally okay. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. And I will catch you guys in the next one.